Good afternoon, everybody. I decided to go ahead and make the heavenly hash cake. I'm going to go out of town for a few days, so I'm going to go ahead and make this ahead of time for my mom because this is her favorite Easter candy. So the things you're going to need 2 sticks of butter, you're going to need 4 eggs, you're going to need 2 cups of sugar, you're going to need 1.5 cups of flour, you're going to need some cocoa, you're going to need 4 tablespoons for the cake mix, as well as 4 tablespoons for the icing, but we'll get to that next, and some vanilla extract. Your first step is going to be you're going to cream your butter with your sugar. Now this needs to be softened. So you may have to put it in the microwave for 15 seconds or whatever. Mix these two together, then you add in your eggs, and then you incorporate your flour and your cocoa and your vanilla extract. That's going to go into a 9 by 13 pan. You're going to need to flour, oil and flour. I always use this Baker's Joy. It just makes it easier. Just spray it on and you're good to go. For the icing, you're going to need a pack of mini marshmallows. You're going to need 4 cups of powdered sugar. You're going to need a cup or more of pecans. Try to find fresh pecans if you can, so they're not real dried out. But a cup of these, you can break them up. I like to just leave them like this. You're going to need a stick of butter. You're going to need a tablespoon of vanilla. I always use some almond extract. And you're going to need a can of, well, you're only going to need a 1/2 cup of evaporated milk, but of course got to buy a can. So anyway, so I'm going to get started mixing, and then we'll go through the steps. I just wanted to kind of give you your ingredients real quick. Okay, so I got my 2 sticks of butter and my sugar in here, and we're going to go ahead and get this mixed up. You're going to make sure that this is mixed well before you start adding in your other ingredients. So basically they just need to be creamed together until, like I said, you get them mixed up real well. So I'm going to get this mixed up to show you what it should look like before I add my eggs in. Okay, once you've got the butter and the sugar incorporated, you're going to start adding in your eggs. And like I've said before, you can do this one at a time, but for time's sake and make sure I can keep this moving, I'm just going to go ahead and add them all. And you can add them all together at once. You don't, but sometimes it just makes it mix better or easier if you do them one at a time. But I'm kind of impatient anyway, so I usually just kind of do this together. But yeah, you're going to just mix this up until it's well combined before you start adding in your flour and your cocoa, which I've kind of put together, so I can just pour when this is ready. So I'm going to just mix this a few more minutes, and then we'll add the last. Okay, so you can see it's light and fluffy now, and this is when you start pouring in your flour mix, your flour and your cocoa. So we're going to do that now. Depression and anxiety is kind of a funny thing. Some days you feel like you can take on the world, and other days you feel like is a shower really worth the trouble? So, and I don't think mental health is something anybody should be ashamed of or be scared to talk about. Baking and cooking is usually my way of kind of handling what's going on in my life, because it just makes me feel good. I feel like I'm accomplishing something. But just sometimes the world just gets too much. So I'm going to go visit my sister. She's in Florida, so I'm going to take a few days and just kind of decompress and recharge my batteries. And I think everybody should do that every once in a while. Just say, you know what, I need a break. So don't be ashamed. If you suffer from depression or anything, and sometimes you just say, look, y'all, I need a break. Take that break because it's important. So now that you've got that mixed up, I'm going to turn this off a minute, and I'm going to add my vanilla here. So we're going to do a teaspoon of vanilla, or as I always say, a heaping capful, because that's about a teaspoon. And then we're going to finish mixing this up, and it's going to be thick, as you can tell. So I'm going to get this good and mixed up, and then we're going to pour it in our pan. And I have already used my Baker's Joy, so it's going to go in the oven at 350 for 35 to 40 minutes, or until it pulls away from the pan, or it the toothpick test, or whichever one method you want to use to make sure it's done all the way through. So let me get this mixed up, and I'm going to get this put in the oven. Okay, real quick, I tasted it, and I like my chocolate cake to be like really chocolatey. So I went ahead and added another tablespoon of cocoa, and another teaspoon of vanilla. So that's another thing. Most of the time I would say with baking, do not substitute. If it calls for something, do that, because you know you have to have your mixtures right. But you're also, if you're making a chocolate cake or an almond cake or whatever cake, you're going to also want to taste it. And if you need to adjust for flavor, then do that. That's okay. You just don't want to make it where it's too thick or you add too much of something. But anyway, I like my chocolate cake really chocolatey. So instead of 4 tablespoons, I used 5. Now, as soon as it comes out of the oven, you're going to need to pour the marshmallows on it. And it is going to be a dense cake because of, you using the, it's got a thicker batter. So the cake is not going to be as fluffy, so don't expect when you push it in for it to just be springy like you do when, you've got oil and things like that in it. So you're going to make sure you cover all the surface with your marshmallows. Okay. We go. Okay, and now we're going to start the icing. Now with the icing, I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit. All right. Let me get my stuff together. You are going to have melted butter for this, not the softened like you did with. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the powdered sugar. And remember, this is 4 cups, but don't pour all of it in right away. Just to make sure that you are able to get this mixed up. Now, it's not going to, mix completely because, of course, it's not enough liquid. But we're going to go ahead and just mix this up a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to put in, I'm going to pause turn this off a second. All right. And that's barely mixed because you're going to want to put your cocoa, and you're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 heaping tablespoons of cocoa. Let's get this back on. All right, now once you get it like this, where you see that it's, it's dark, and you're going to start adding in. You're going to go ahead and add your vanilla. Again, let me pause and turn this down a minute. I'm going to do a heaping teaspoon. We're going to add a little bit of almond. About 1/2 teaspoon. All right, and then you're going to start adding in your cream. Now, again, this is not milk. This is cream, evaporated milk, whatever way you want to call it, because this is going to need to be pourable. So we're going to get this good and mixed up. Once I get this good and mixed up, then I'll add the pecans and we'll pour it over the top. So let me get this finished mixing and I'll be right back. Okay, once you've got all your 4 cups in and you've got pretty much all of your cream. I didn't put all of it. You want it nice and creamy. And then I'm going to add in my pecans. Now this will, break up some of the pecans, and you can do it, you can lay the pecans over it and then pour the chocolate, but I just like mixing it in. That's just kind of me. So let me turn this off and see if this is going to be pourable. So you're going to get your spatula and you're going to make sure. See, so I'm going to go ahead and finish adding in the rest of this cream, sorry. And then we're going to stir this up, and then we're going to pour it on top. Let me finish mixing it again. All right, as you can see, the marshmallows have started melting. Now, this isn't quite, pourable as far as just like runny. So you're going to have to kind of like spread it around a little bit, because it'll it's going to blend in with the marshmallows. And you can add a little bit more cream if you want to. I don't like adding too much. I'd rather just kind of pour slowly, because I want it to harden. It should kind of like harden once it everything cools off. It should harden into more like a pecan fudge, possibly, if I could put it to something. So this is just my preferred way of doing it. Again, you can add your pecans, you can even add your pecans to the cake mix. I know that some people do it that way. I prefer to have the pecans on the top, kind of like you would with the candy. On the candy, you have marshmallow center, and then your chocolate has your pecan pieces in it. So let me just finish getting this all poured off. Kind of just be easily smooth it. You want to disrupt the marshmallows too much. All right. Now I'm going to set this over to cool, and it's probably going to take an hour to cool, and then I'll come back well, I'm running out of time. If y'all have any questions, let me know. If not, enjoy, y'all.